Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown and AEW Rampage review. This is going to be a review of both shows from last night. Smackdown was from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, while Rampage was taped, of course, at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, right here in New York. This was Smackdown's go-home show for Extreme Rules, which is tomorrow night. And why even call the pay-per-view Extreme Rules? We only have one Extreme Rules match taking place tomorrow, and that is Reigns versus the Demon. Everything else, just a singles match or a triple threat and a tag team match. That's it. Only one Extreme Rules match taking place tomorrow on the pay-per-view. When your show is called Extreme Rules, you should have maybe 2 Extreme Rules matches on the show, and yet we're only getting one. Might as well just call this pay-per-view Regular Rules. Man, after this Extreme Rules pay-per-view this year, WWE should just do away with the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Same for their other gimmick pay-per-views. I don't know why they're still keeping them. We don't need Extreme Rules. We don't need Money in the Bank to be its regular pay-per-view. Money in the Bank should just go back to being at WrestleMania. Hell in a Cell. Why do we need a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view? And Elimination Chamber. We don't need these gimmick pay-per-views. WWE should just do away with them. But, like I said, after this year, WWE should just automatically just not do another Extreme Rules pay-per-view next year. If you're only having one Extreme Rules match on the card for this year. But SmackDown last night was god-awful. It was a terrible show, in my opinion. We had Shinsuke Nakamura, King Nakamura versus Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship. Zelina Vega versus Liv Morgan. Nikki A.S.H versus Natalya. And in the main event, Roman Reigns took on Montez Ford. Overall, SmackDown, terrible show last night. But going to jump right into the SmackDown review and then start with the AEW Rampage review after. So SmackDown opened up last night with the SmackDown Women's Champion, Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch kicked off the show, and she made her way to the ring. And we saw footage of Bianca's homecoming from last week on SmackDown, where Kane, Glenn Jacobs, the mayor of Knox County there in Knoxville, Tennessee, awarded Bianca with the key to, Knoxville, and how Becky ended up interrupting that segment. So we saw that. Becky Lynch then got on the mic, and she ended up saying that she's ready to party in the city of brotherly love, which, of course, Philadelphia. Becky ended up wondering why Knoxville had such a celebration for Bianca last week. And she ended up saying that it was, I guess, because she made it out of there. She made it out of there and did something with her life, which she was referring to Bianca. So Becky Lynch ended up going on, talking about her recent success, beating Bianca at SummerSlam, and how she had a baby, and she returned to win the SmackDown Women's Championship in record time. Becky ended up saying that no one threw her a party, and she does like cake. And she was like, that's okay. She ended up saying that she came out to congratulate Bianca last week, but unprovoked. She ended up saying that Bianca tried to assert her dominance and not let go of her hand when they did the shake. So Becky ended up going on about how she had no choice but to do what she did. She ended up saying that she didn't want to embarrass Bianca in front of her parents and embarrass her in front of her friends and also her hometown. Becky then talked about her and Bianca's match tomorrow night at Extreme Rules and how Bianca ended up goading her into the match. And then Becky got interrupted by Bianca. Bianca ended up coming out. She got on the mic. She ended up saying, first of all, Becky, keep my parents' names out of your mouth. She wanted to say that, yes, Becky did beat her for the title. and she did embarrass her in front of her hometown. But that won't happen on Sunday. Bianca ended up mentioning how she headlined WrestleMania in a quarter of the time Becky did, and how she won an ESPY award for doing it. Becky then went on to say that she taught the world how to be great, and Bianca better put some respect on her name. So both Bianca and Becky ended up facing off, and Bianca ended up declaring that she will be the new SmackDown Women's Champion after tomorrow night at Extreme Rules. So Bianca ended up offering her hand for Becky to shake. Becky ended up smacking her. She was talking some trash. Bianca ended up attacking Becky, and they started brawling. Becky ended up sending Bianca into the turnbuckles, and Bianca ended up blocking the manhandle slam by Becky. She ended up dropping Becky with the KOD, the Kiss of Death, in the middle of the ring. And so Bianca then made her way out of the ring, and she turned around. She looked back at the ring. She was smiling at Becky, and that was that. But overall, it was just a very meh segment, in my opinion, to open the show. But tomorrow night, you already know that Becky is going to walk out of the pay-per-view still the SmackDown Women's Champion. That's my prediction. Becky Lynch is going to retain. No way that she is losing the title. She just won it at SummerSlam. So that's my prediction. Becky is going to retain the title. We all know it. And then we had Apollo Crews versus King Shinsuke Nakamura. Intercontinental Championship was on the line. So we had Rick Boogs end up coming out with his guitar. Of course, does the whole introduction, introducing Nakamura. Pat McAfee going wild on commentary. And out came Apollo Crews with Commander Aziz. And I like the CGI lion statues that they used for Apollo Crews' entrance. Thought that looked cool, and it fit his entrance there. So good work done on that. So then we had a pre-recorded backstage message from Apollo Crews. He was with Commander Aziz back there. Apollo Crews ended up saying that he promises to bring honor to the Intercontinental Championship. And also, he promises to bring honor to his people. So that was what Apollo Crews had to say. But really, Apollo Crews, when he was the Intercontinental Champion, he didn't bring honor to the Intercontinental Championship. Now he's saying, oh yeah, I promise to bring honor if I win the Intercontinental Championship. So the match started with Apollo Crews in control. He went to work on Nakamura. He dropped Nakamura with a shoulder. Crews then ran the ropes, but Nakamura came back, delivered a kick to Apollo Crews. Nakamura ended up delivering a boot to Apollo Crews in the corner. He ended up missing the running high knee as Apollo Crews slided off of the top turnbuckle. Apollo Crews then fought back, ended up leveling Nakamura with a clothesline. After he leveled Nakamura with a clothesline, he ended up sending Nakamura flying over the top rope. Nakamura ended up landing hard out on the floor. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Apollo Crews was still in control of the match. Nakamura ended up fighting back, ended up dropping Apollo Crews with a kick to the face. Nakamura was in control, and he ended up running into a drop kick from Apollo Crews. Then it was back and forth between the both of them. Nakamura delivered a flying knee from the second turnbuckle to Apollo Crews. Went for the cover, which Crews ended up kicking out at 2. Nakamura was going for the Kinshasa, but it ended up getting blocked by Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews turned that into a Samoan drop, and he went for the cover. Nakamura kicked out at 2. So at this point, Apollo Crews was frustrated. Crews then went for a powerbomb. Nakamura ended up blocking, follow-up to that. And Apollo Crews, he ended up dropping Apollo Crews as Commander Aziz and Rick Boogs ended up looking on. Nakamura was getting ready to hit the Kinshasa, and Apollo Crews ended up rolling out to the apron. Nakamura ended up coming over, and he ended up hitting Commander Aziz with a running kick. Aziz then ended up turning to Nakamura. Boogs came over. Boogs then dropped Commander Aziz on his head with a suplex. Nakamura ended up bringing Apollo Crews back to the ring, ended up locking in the armbar, and there you go. Nakamura ended up winning the match, retaining the Intercontinental Championship. Overall, the match itself, it was okay. And then we had Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton was backstage with Montez Ford. Angelo Dawkins wasn't there last night because Montez Ford ended up saying that he's at a friend's wedding and that he will be back to help regain the titles at Extreme Rules on Sunday. So Kayla Braxton ended up saying to Montez Ford about how dominant Roman Reigns was on Monday Night Raw this past Monday. Of course, we all know the reason why Roman was on Raw on Monday, to garner Monday Night Raw's ratings. That's all it was. WWE was desperate to get Roman on the show and to get up their ratings because Monday Night Raw's ratings are absolutely terrible. So that's the only reason why Roman was on the show. So Kayla Braxton ended up asking if the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos, will be as dominant at Extreme Rules. Montez Ford ended up telling Kayla Braxton about how the Street Profits will win the titles back at Extreme Rules. So Montez Ford ended up looking at the camera. He was saying how they want the smoke. And he then knocked the Usos by saying that Reigns has been treating them like his bloodline bitches. Which that was funny there. But that was what Montez Ford had to say. And then it cut to Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Reigns ended up asking Paul Heyman, "Did you hear what Montez Ford just said?" And then Paul Heyman ended up saying to Reigns, "Oh, Montez Ford had the balls to call the greatest tag team ever, the Usos, bloodline bitches." So because of that, Reigns ended up wanting a match with Montez Ford. Paul Heyman ended up bringing up how he has to defend against the Demon at Extreme Rules. So Reigns ended up looking at Paul Heyman, and Reigns was like, "Stop talking." Paul Heyman ended up saying that he will make the match happen. Reigns ended up asking why Paul Heyman is still in the room. So Paul Heyman ended up understanding. He excused himself, and he headed out to get the match made to find Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville to make the match official. So that was that. And then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Paul Heyman ended up stopping Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville. And Paul Heyman ended up welcoming the both of them to Philadelphia. And they're still not telling him where Brock Lesnar is being drafted to. Paul Heyman ended up saying he has a big main event for them tonight. Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, versus Montez Ford, one-on-one. Adam Pearce ended up saying that he thinks they can do that. So Paul Heyman was like, "Oh, he bets he can. He bets Adam Pearce can." And then we could talk about the draft, the WWE draft, which is coming up soon, which I have no hope for. WWE is going to once again screw up the fucking draft. Knowing them. I don't know who is looking forward to the draft. Well, you already know WWE is going to fuck it up some way. So then we saw Seth Rollins backstage. Seth Rollins was dressed in a red suit which looked fucking ugly, in my opinion. An ugly red suit. So Rollins ended up saying that he's a patient man. But it's been 7 days since he laid an ultimatum down to Edge. And that he still has no response. Not a peep. He hasn't heard a thing from Edge. Rollins ended up saying that Edge's silence is deafening. And the truth is, Edge is hurt bad. And that he's ashamed to admit that Rollins is the reason he may never compete in a ring again. And while that is mildly amusing to him, it's not good enough. So Rollins ended up saying that he wants an answer. And he doesn't want to wait anymore. So he ends up calling Edge to show up next Friday on SmackDown. Calling himself to the ring. So he ended up saying for Edge to look in his eyes and tell the entire world the truth. That he is not Edge Light. That Rollins is not Edge Light. And that he is superior to Edge in every way. And that he is the man, that Rollins is the man responsible for ending his career. Rollins ended up saying Edge can choose not to do that if he likes. But he will not be made a liar of. Rollins will not be made a liar of. He ended up saying that he will find Edge wherever he is and beat those words out of him in front of his wife, Beth Phoenix, and his kids. So Rollins then laughs, and says the choice is Edge's. He knows he will make the right one. So there you go. Rollins calling out Edge for him to appear next week on SmackDown, which we got an answer to that later on in the night. And then we went to Liv Morgan versus Zelina Vega. This was terrible. This was a terrible match. Liv Morgan ended up coming out first, and then Zelina Vega. Before the bell rang, we had Carmella end up making her way out. Carmella came over to the commentary table. Match started. Liv Morgan ended up dropkicking Zelina Vega into the corner. Liv kept control of the match. She ended up running into a boot in the corner from Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega then rolled Liv Morgan up for a 2 count. At this point, Carmella was on top of the announce table, just stretched out, sitting on the commentary table. So there was a point where Liv ended up countering with her modified backstabber into the turnbuckles, and Zelina Vega ended up hitting hard into the turnbuckle. It was the same, of course, move that, of course, busted Carmella's nose open last week, where we just heard Carmella just complaining about her nose, saying, "My nose, my nose." So Carmella ended up getting up. She was yelling at Liv Morgan from ringside. Liv ended up going for Carmella through the ropes. She ended up grabbing her. Zelina Vega ended up running over, delivered a kick to Liv Morgan. Zelina Vega then followed up, delivered a destroyer on Liv Morgan. She ended up covering Liv Morgan, and there you go. Zelina Vega ended up winning the match. Now with Zelina Vega getting this win, you already know that Liv Morgan is going to win the match on Sunday, tomorrow night. You already know that. But overall, terrible match, in my opinion. So then we had a video of Corbin shopping for new suits. So we saw that. It was terrible. And then we saw Corbin end up coming out because we had a new talk show called Happy Talk. More like shit talk. Because this was beyond fucking garbage, this talk show segment called Happy Talk with Happy Corbin. Garbage. Absolute fucking garbage. How many more talk shows does WWE need? We have Happy Talk now with fucking Baron Corbin. Ding Dong Hello with Bayley. Miz TV. Moist TV. The Kevin Owens Show. Alexa's Playground. How many fucking talk shows do we need in WWE? Enough with the talk shows. Not every superstar needs a talk show. So, we had Happy Talk start off with, there was a red apron, and Corbin had his hat rack. There was 2 leather chairs in there, velvet ropes. Corbin ended up welcoming us to Happy Talk. He ended up talking about how happy it is and how life is so good. And he ended up talking about how he needed his first guest to be someone that embodies happiness, who lights up a room. He ended up saying that he thought long and hard about who the guest should be. So he ended up introducing his first guest on Happy Talk, and it was himself. So Corbin ended up laughing. He rants about being rich and good looking and how he flew on a private jet. He ended up talking about his expensive dinner that he had last night, his Rolex that he's wearing, a $90,000 custom suit, and of course, fans were chanting, "We don't care." Of course, we don't fucking care. If you get chants of "we don't care," you already know that your segment and your talk show is a failure. And it proved it right there. This segment was a fucking failure. When you have fans going, "We don't care." That shows how much they care for this new talk show by Corbin. So Corbin ended up showing us something that is bringing him happiness. We saw a video of how he took out Kevin Owens last week. So we saw that. Corbin ended up saying that Kevin Owens is a former WWE champion and one of the toughest guys on the roster. And that he did that to Kevin Owens with ease. So Corbin ended up saying that it brings him great joy to be that powerful. So then he got interrupted by Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens ended up coming out. He was fuming. He was marching to the ring. And then Kevin Owens was attacked at ringside by a guy dressed in black clothing. And it was revealed to be Riddick Moss. Who you say? Riddick Moss. You're probably like, oh, who is this guy? Yeah. Nobody even knows who Riddick Moss is. If you saw my Monday Night Raw vlog from last year where I attended Monday Night Raw at the Barclays Center, that was the last show that I attended before the pandemic happened. There's a point in the video where Riddick Moss had a match. And you had the section that I was sitting next to me say, "Oh, we don't know you." Yeah. A lot of people that were sitting there in the crowd at Smackdown were probably the same thing, going, "Who is this guy? We don't know you." So, yeah, Riddick Moss ended up dropping Kevin Owens. He turned to Corbin. He went back to beating up on Kevin Owens, and Owens ended up fighting back, but he was double teamed by Corbin and Riddick Moss. So they ended up sending Kevin Owens into the ring steps, and fans were chanting, "You suck." So both Corbin and Moss end up taking apart the ring steps, and they end up delivering a double choke slam, thinking that they're like Kane and The Undertaker. They end up delivering a double choke slam to Kevin Owens on top of the steps. And so Riddick Moss was laughing, and that was how this garbage segment ended. Just complete fucking trash, this whole segment was. This whole Happy Talk segment with Baron Corbin is already a fucking failure when you have fans going, "We don't care." And Riddick Moss, nobody even knows who the fuck he is. I mean, how long was Riddick Moss gone for? Yeah, go back and watch my Monday Night Raw vlog from last year where I attended the show. You're already there. You already know the crowd reaction that he got last year, saying, "We don't know you." The fans were chanting, "We don't know you." You don't believe me? Go watch the vlog. That just shows how the fans are and care about Riddick Moss. So then we had Kayla Braxton backstage. Kayla Braxton was with Montez Ford. Kayla was asking if Montez Ford now regrets his earlier comments. Montez ended up telling Kayla Braxton that he's not worried about facing Roman Reigns. He ended up saying this is one time his big mouth has talked him into an opportunity, as the truth has set him free. Montez Ford ended up saying that he's tired of people backstage walking on eggshells around the bloodline. And that he's going to take care of Roman in the ring. And that he just wishes Angelo Dawkins was here to watch it. Because he's here and he wants the smoke. Then we went to Nikki A.S.H. versus Natalya. Of course, Nikki A.S.H. and Rhea Ripley won the titles this past Monday night on Raw. And they could appear on any show, Raw, SmackDown, NXT. So we had a video show of Nikki and Rhea Ripley, how they won the titles on Raw this past Monday from Natalya and Tamina. So they came out, Nikki A.S.H. and Rhea Ripley, and then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Edge ended up responding to Seth Rollins on Twitter. So Edge then said that he will be at SmackDown next week for the beginning of the WWE Draft, which of course is next week. So the draft is going to be next Friday on SmackDown, and the following Monday it's going to be concluded on Monday Night Raw. So there's your answer. Edge is going to be on SmackDown next week to answer Seth Rollins. So then we went back to the ring. The match ended up started with Nikki A.S.H. and Natalya. So both Nikki and Natalya were trading counters. Nikki ended up drop kicking Natalya's knees and then drop kicked her in the face, went for a cover. Natalya kicked out at 2. Natalya ended up dropping Nikki. Natalya then ended up running Nikki from corner to corner, started unloading with some kicks on Nikki. Natalya then delivered a suplex out of the corner to Nikki, went for the cover. Nikki kicked out at 2. So Tamina ended up getting on the apron to cause a distraction. Rhea Ripley ended up coming over. She pulled Tamina off of the apron. Natalya had Nikki rolled up for a pin. And Nikki ended up reversing it for a pin of her own. And so she got the win on Natalya. So Nikki A.S.H. ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Shotzi Blackheart, and Tegan Nox. They ended up riding the tank out to the ring. Shotzi ended up firing her missile at Nikki and Rhea Ripley. So we had the two teams taunting each other. And that was that. So Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox are going to get their shot at Nikki A.S.H. and Rhea Ripley. Possibly for the titles. When they should have already had a chance for the titles when Natalya and Tamina were the champions. So now they have Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox fighting Nikki and Rhea Ripley. That's going to be coming up soon. And then watch. Nikki A.S.H. and Rhea Ripley are going to retain the titles. I think that should have been Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox's chance by defeating Natalya and Tamina and them becoming the new Women's Tag Team Champions. So, what's this now? Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox, they're going to lose to Nikki and Rhea Ripley if the titles are on the line. WWE fucked up right there. So then we had Dominic and Rey Mysterio backstage. Rey was trying to give Dominic some advice. Dominic ended up saying that his father is suffering him. He ended up saying that his father, Rey, won't give him a chance and that he keeps nitpicking. Dominic ended up saying that he would have won his last 2 matches if his father wasn't at ringside. So then Rey ended up walking off. He ended up saying that he's going to give Dominic his space since he isn't thinking straight. So Dominic ended up calling Rey back, but he ended up leaving. Rey ended up leaving. Sami Zayn ended up walking in. Dominic was startled, and Sami ended up telling Dominic to relax. Sami ended up saying that he's here to give Dominic some advice. He ended up praising Dominic. Says that if he were him, he would start listening to Rey a little less and listening to his instincts more. Sami ended up saying, "That's it. That's all I have to tell you." And then he walked off. So that was that. So possibly Dominic is going to start listen to some insights from Sami Zayn, getting some advice from Sami Zayn. So looks like that way. They're teasing it right there. But who knows if WWE is going to do it. So then we had Naomi end up coming out. We saw a video of how she stood up to Sonya Deville last week and how she says she's not giving up and that she will get her return match no matter what. And Naomi was fined last week for insubordination because she was yelling at Sonya Deville. So Michael Cole ended up saying that Naomi is not scheduled to compete. So she was in the ring as SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Naomi got on the mic. She ended up saying that she came back to SmackDown to compete. But Sonya Deville refused to put her in a match. Naomi ended up saying that she's been fined, she's been disrespected, insulted, and ignored. And that she's not playing the game anymore. And that she wants a match. So Naomi ended up saying, which one of the ladies in the back wants to come feel the glow? So Sonya Deville ended up making her way out. Sonya Deville had a mic in hand. She ended up saying that Naomi needs to stop because it's not happening. Sonya Deville ended up telling Naomi that she makes the matches. So Naomi was like, "Oh, how about you, Sonya Deville, make a match between the two of us?" So Sonya Deville was laughing. She ended up saying, "Oh, Naomi, everyone knows I would slap the glow off of you." And that she ended up telling Naomi that she's no longer a competitor. She's Naomi's boss. So we had the fans chanting, "Make the match." Sonya Deville ended up calling for Naomi's mic to be muted. And she was taunting Naomi. And Sonya Deville ended up calling for security to come out. She ended up saying that she was just trying to help Naomi because we all know that it's all downhill for Naomi as soon as her elaborate entrance is over. Sonya Deville ended up saying that WWE has given Naomi chance after chance, but she keeps dropping the ball. She ended up telling Naomi to go in the back and TikTok dance her way into obscurity as she plans for the future of SmackDown. As Sonya Deville ends up planning for the future. So Sonya Deville ended up ordering security to get Naomi out of there. Security then came out, escorted Naomi to the back. And that was that. But right here, it's going to be a little tease for Naomi and Sonya Deville's in-ring return, her debut back into the ring. So we might be seeing a in-ring return for Sonya Deville soon. Whenever they make this match, looking forward to it. So then we saw the Bloodline was walking backstage. The Usos end up hyping Roman up. And the Usos end up facing off with Otis and Chad Gable. So we saw that. Main event. Roman Reigns versus Montez Ford. The match itself was just meh, in my opinion. Montez Ford ended up making his way out. Of course, we had the Solo Cups end up shooting out as Montez Ford ended up heading to the ring. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Becky Lynch was backstage. She ended up saying that she will make Bianca suffer at Extreme Rules. She ended up saying that she's not going to just beat Bianca. She's going to break her. So that was what Becky Lynch had to say. She was seething. And then we went to the ring, and Roman Reigns ended up coming out. Roman Reigns, of course, came out along with Paul Heyman. Of course, Roman ended up taking his time coming into the ring. As Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, they went over the card for Extreme Rules. So Reigns ended up standing tall in the middle of the ring. He had pyro go off. Match started. Both of them end up locking up. Ford locked in a headlock on Reigns. Reigns ended up reversing it and dropped Montez Ford down with a shoulder. Ford ended up drop kicking Reigns, and Reigns got back up. So Montez Ford ended up delivering a second drop kick, which sent Reigns out to the floor. Reigns then regrouped as Montez Ford ended up standing tall in the ring. SmackDown went to commercial. So when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Reigns had Montez Ford on the middle rope, choking him before backing off. Reigns ended up keeping control, started unloading on Montez Ford in the corner. Reigns dropped Ford into the corner, started choking him with the middle rope. And Reigns was continuing to dominate on Montez Ford, delivering some shots to him. Ford ended up coming back, and he ended up stunning Reigns with an enziguri. Ford ended up clotheslining Reigns over the top rope out to the floor. He ended up sending Reigns into the barricade, and he delivered Reigns once again into the barricade. So Reigns was stumbling around ringside as Ford ended up breaking up the count from the referee. Ford then ended up stepping up on the announce table to leap off of it, but the table ended up collapsing. So it was unexpected with the table end up collapsing. So that was a botch there. So Ford ended up dropping Reigns at ringside. Reigns brought Montez Ford back to the ring, launched him into the air. Reigns delivered a jumping clothesline to Ford. He ended up standing tall as SmackDown went to another commercial. So we had two commercials during this match. So when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Reigns was in control. He was delivering right hands to Montez Ford. Ford looked dazed on the apron. Reigns ended up walking over, and Ford ended up kicking him in the face. He delivered a crossbody from the top, went for the cover, which Roman kicked out too. Reigns ducked an enziguri from Montez Ford, and Reigns looked confused because Montez Ford ended up doing a very weird move. So Michael Cole was like, "Oh, what was that?" So Ford kept control of the match. He ended up pinning the blockbuster on Reigns. Went for the cover. Reigns kicked out too. So at the end of the match, we had Reigns applying the guillotine, and he ended up tapping out. Ford ended up tapping out. So there you go. Roman ended up winning the match. Post-match, Paul Heyman was in the ring. He had a mic in hand. Paul Heyman ended up saying that was not enough for Montez Ford's sins. Paul Heyman then ended up counseling his tribal chief to show Montez Ford, the Demon, Finn Balor, and also Brock Lesnar what happens when Roman takes it to the extreme. So Paul Heyman ended up dropping the mic. So Paul Heyman was shouting to bring out the Usos. So the Usos ended up coming out, Jimmy and Jay. So the Usos ended up handing Reigns a steel chair. Reigns started beating Montez Ford with the chair, started unloading chair shots on Ford. The Usos then retrieved the table from under the ring. So Reigns ended up tossing Ford out to the floor. The Usos were yelling at Montez Ford. Reigns then ended up slamming Montez Ford through the table. The lights then went out in the arena. And the Demon, Finn Balor, was on top of the turnbuckle. So the Demon ended up leaping off the top, ended up taking out the Bloodline. He got up with a kendo stick, started unloading on Reigns and the Usos. Reigns brought the Demon into the ring, and he had a chair in hand. The Demon, Balor, ended up blocking the chair with a sling blade, delivered a sling blade to Roman Reigns. So the Demon started unloading on Reigns with some chair shots. He ended up knocking the Usos off the apron. The Demon then ran the ropes, ended up leaping out of the ring, taking Reigns down on the floor as Reigns ended up trying to retreat out of the ring. So then the Demon ended up standing over Reigns at ringside, and that was how SmackDown went off the air. Overall, we all know that the Demon, Finn Balor, is going to lose at Extreme Rules against Roman. Roman's getting that win. So I don't know why WWE attempted to bring back the Demon when we all know that he's going to lose at Extreme Rules. I don't know why WWE is doing that. Bringing back the Demon when we all know that the Demon's going to take an L at Extreme Rules. Overall, SmackDown was awful last night. So let's move on to AEW Rampage. Rampage was from Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, right here in New York. It was a tape show. It was 2 hours. And the show was enjoyable. It wasn't as good as Dynamite on Wednesday, but still, it was a good show. We had CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs. The Super Kliq was the Bucks and Adam Cole versus Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, part of Dan Lambert's American Top Team. So then we had the Lucha Brothers, Santana and Ortiz versus the Hardy Family Office in an 8-man tag. Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay. And the main event, we had a lights out match. Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki. Overall, good show, very enjoyable show, but wasn't as good as Dynamite on Wednesday night. Of course, this was AEW Rampage Grand Slam. So, Rampage Grand Slam kicked off last night with CM Punk versus Powerhouse Will Hobbs. Good match here, very enjoyable match. Punk ended up starting off the match, delivering a drop kick to Hobbs. Hobbs ended up trying to push Punk away, but Punk ended up staying on him. Hobbs delivered a big shot, which hauled Punk's momentum. Punk ended up reversing an Irish whip, and he gets off a drop, toe hold. He ended up targeting Hobbs' left leg with some kicks. Punk then went for a Russian leg sweep. He ended up flipping the middle finger towards Hook. Punk ended up going for the GTS, but Hook ended up stepping up on the apron. Punk ended up charging at Hook, but ran straight into Hobbs for a quick count. Hobbs was getting booed by the crowd. He was mocking Punk. He ended up going for a nerve hold, and he was just clubbing blows at Punk. Punk ended up trying to fight back, but Hobbs ended up sending Punk chest first into the corner, whipped him across the ring to the other corner. Hobbs ended up delivering a forearm to Punk. Punk ended up reversing a suplex into a roll, which Hobbs ended up kicking out at 2. So Hobbs ended up hitting Punk with a body block. Hobbs ended up taking his time. He was dealing with some more damage to Punk on the ropes. So we had Hobbs end up applying a bear hug on Punk. Punk ended up escaping the bear hug with some elbows. Hobbs then transitioned his grip from the bear hug. Punk ended up hitting a few elbows to escape, and both Punk and Hobbs were trading strikes. Punk ended up firing some elbows, started hitting at Hobbs. Punk then delivered a lariat that was followed up by a swinging neck breaker. Punk, of course, moved awesome in this match. He was good in the match. Punk ended up sizing up Hobbs in the corner. He ended up going for a high knee and then a short arm clothesline. And the crowd just was just pumped up for Punk. He ended up hitting an elbow drop. Punk went up to the top, delivered an elbow drop, went for the cover, and Hobbs kicked out at 2. Punk couldn't believe that Hobbs kicked out at 2 after that elbow drop. So Punk was going for the GTS. Hobbs ended up countering that into a power slam. Went for the cover. Punk ended up kicking out. So Hobbs was getting hyped up as he looked to go for the pump handle into town business, but Punk ended up countering that into a rear naked choke. So Hobbs was fading. He was fading on one knee. Hobbs then came back, delivered a back suplex to escape the rear naked choke. Hobbs delivered a stampede slam, went for the cover. Punk kicked out at 2. Hobbs couldn't believe it. So at the end of the match, we had Punk end up setting up Hobbs for the GTS, which he did get it. So he hit the GTS on Hobbs, went for the cover, and there you go. CM Punk ended up winning the match, which we all knew that Punk was going to win. But overall, very good match from Punk and Hobbs. You know, both guys had some good offense in the match. They worked really well. But who is CM Punk going to fight next? He's probably going to fight Ricky Starks from Team Taz. And then we had the trios match. Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, versus the Super Kliq, Adam Cole, and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. Of course, we had the Super Kliq end up coming out along with Doc Gallows, and also that guy who is just known for spraying cold spray, a waste on the Elite, Brandon Cutler. Of course, we had the match start off with Cage and Adam Cole starting off the match. Don Callis was on commentary during the match. So Adam Cole ended up taking in Matt Jackson. Christian Cage ended up taking down Matt, did some push-ups on him, and that pissed off Matt Jackson. And Matt Jackson came back, had some momentum, took off his shirt, started dancing. Christian Cage ended up countering Matt into the corner, got some offense on him. Christian ended up elevating over. He ended up hitting an uppercut while Matt was hanging on the ropes. He then ended up hitting a second rope back elbow to Matt Jackson. Jungle Boy came in, started working with Christian Cage to take out both the Bucks. So Adam Cole was thinking of getting in the ring. Matt ended up taking advantage, blindsiding him. And the Bucks ended up working together. They were taking back and forth. Jungle Boy ended up cutting off the tag, started working his way into a double arm drag. Jungle Boy ended up chasing Adam Cole around the ring, and he ended up delivering a double super kick. So everyone was fighting on the outside. Luchasaurus ended up trying to fight off the Bucks and Adam Cole. And also we had Doc Gallows and Brandon Cutler out there. So the Super Kliq were working on Jungle Boy as the Bucks were kissing Adam Cole's cheeks. Then they hit a drop kick. So the Super Kliq were continuing working on Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy ended up escaping the corner, ended up setting the Bucks crashing, ended up taking in Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus then cleared house in the ring. He ended up going back and forth, delivered some strikes on the Bucks, delivered back body drops to the Bucks and some clotheslines. Luchasaurus was going for a double choke slam, but Adam Cole then came in, made the save for his boys. Luchasaurus then avoided kicks and delivered a tail whip on the Bucks. He then choke slammed Adam Cole on top of Matt Jackson. Luchasaurus ended up cutting off Nick Jackson's springboard and hit a choke slam on him. He went for the cover, but Matt Jackson ended up breaking up the pin. So at the end of the match, we had the Bucks end up hitting the BT trigger, and Adam Cole ended up hitting the boom for the win on Jungle Boy. And that was that. The Super Kliq ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a good trios match. Really enjoyed it. And then we had Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. Of course, Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, they're known as Men of the Year. That was given to them by Dan Lambert. Of course, Dan Lambert was out there. They're known as American Top Team, Dan Lambert's, guys. So we had Jericho and Scorpio Sky start off the match. We had Scorpio Sky end up doing a takedown to Jericho, but Jericho delivered some chops and then an axe handle that was followed up by a suplex, a back suplex to Scorpio Sky. Jericho then flipped off Ethan Page as he ended up sending Scorpio Sky into the corner, started delivering some clotheslines to Scorpio Sky. Jericho then tagged in Jake Hager, and they ran through Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky came back and delivered a jawbreaker as he tagged in Ethan Page. Page ended up running into a hip toss, and Hager ended up sending Page out to the corner, and Jericho ended up getting a shot in. Hager then delivered a belly-to-belly suplex on Ethan Page. Jericho came in. Page ended up turning the tables on Jericho and delivered a round kick and then some punches. Page ended up driving his knee on Jericho on the middle rope, which allowed Dan Lambert to slap Jericho. And then Rampage went to commercial. And then we saw Scorpio Sky end up tagging in and did a chin lock on Hager, but Hager ended up backing up into the corner. Scorpio Sky ended up cutting off a tag attempt with a chop block from Hager not getting to Jericho. Page ended up tagging in, ended up hitting some strikes at Hager. At the end of the match, Dan Lambert ended up distracting Jake Hager. Scorpio Sky delivered a roll-up for a 2 count. Hager delivered a side slam to Scorpio Sky, but he went for the cover, and Ethan Page ended up breaking it up. Jericho then sent Page outside, hit a plancha. Hager ended up catching Scorpio Sky's high cross, and he then slammed Scorpio Sky. Dan Lambert then held on to Hager's feet. Scorpio Sky ended up rolling up Hager. And there you go. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky ended up winning the match. Post-match, Jake Hager ended up dropping both Page and Scorpio Sky. Jericho and Hager then dragged Dan Lambert into the ring. And American Top Team ended up walking down from the crowd. And they surrounded the ring. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky ended up joining in as American Top Team, end up being down on Jericho and Hager. So they all end up destroying Jericho and Hager in the ring. So Lambert was instructing them to keep being down on Jericho and Hager. Paige Van Zandt ended up hitting a flurry of body shots on Jericho. And George Masvidal ended up hitting a running knee on Jericho, which was crazy. So all those guys in American Top Team end up being down on Jericho and Hager. So that was that. But it's not over for Jericho and Hager with American Top Team. I think we're going to be getting a match with George Masvidal and maybe another guy from American Top Team. So we're going to be seeing that soon. So Jericho and Hager are not done with American Top Team. But overall, it was a good match. Then we had Santana and Ortiz and the Lucha Brothers, Penta El Zero Miedo and Rey Fenix versus the Hardy Family Office, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, the Butcher, and the Blade. So we had the Santana Lucha Brothers. They ended up coming out along with Alex Abrahantes. Of course, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, the Butcher, and the Blade ended up coming out along with Matt Hardy and Jack Evans. And Helico, nowhere to be found. This was an 8-man tag. And this was a pretty good 8-man tag here. And what I liked about Santana and Ortiz, they came out and they were sporting the baseball Furies from one of my favorite films, The Warriors. They had the Furies on the back of the jersey, and they had the face paint. It was awesome. So the match started off with all 4 of these guys brawling. Hardy Family Office was sent outside as Ortiz and Penta were set up for the ropes. And Phoenix and Santana end up hitting moonsaults to the Hardy family office. The Blade was alone in the ring as he ate some thrust kicks. And then Ortiz ended up hitting a assisted splash. Went for the cover, but the Hardy family office ended up breaking it up. Private Party then ended up dealing with Santana and Ortiz on the outside. Ortiz ended up taking a DDT. We had Matt Hardy on the outside of the ring. He was threatening to cut off Ortiz's hair. He had scissors in hands. And Orange Cassidy then walked out. Jack Evans was trying to deal with Orange Cassidy, but Orange Cassidy ended up delivering the orange punch to Jack Evans. We had the Blade and Phoenix. They were in the ring as Rampage went to commercial. Then when Rampage came back from the commercial, Santana got a tag in. He ended up hitting a cutter on the Blade, and that followed up by a blower from Ortiz. Mark Quinn ended up sending Santana flying to Ortiz, and then a plancha on Ortiz on the outside of the ring. Isaiah Cassidy then ended up hitting a stunner on Santana. Penta then delivered a super kick on Isaiah Cassidy in the corner, which he then followed up by a backbreaker. Butcher then ended up taking a super kick and then a low kick. At the end of the match, Santana and Ortiz and the Lucha Brothers end up winning the match, where we had the Lucha Brothers end up hitting a stomp and a Fear Factor combo, and Santana and Ortiz end up delivering a powerbomb, top rope neck breaker, and that was that. But overall, good 8-man tag match. Very well enjoyed the match. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was backstage with Matt Hardy and Jack Evans. Matt Hardy, I'm saying that it was a disappointing result. But the night isn't over for the Hardy family office. Because, of course, we have Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay coming up. Matt Hardy ended up challenging Orange Cassidy to a hair versus hair match. Matt Hardy, I'm saying that it will be Orange Cassidy versus Jack Evans. So Matt Hardy will not compete in the hair versus hair match. And Jack Evans was surprised about that also. But Matt Hardy ended up saying that Jack Evans better win the match. So it'll be Orange Cassidy versus Jack Evans, hair versus hair match. We all know that Jack Evans is going to be getting his hair shaved off. So, there you go. So then we saw Sammy Guevara and Fuego del Sol. They were walking out to the ramp. Sammy Guevara, of course, had his cue cards in hand. One of the cue cards said, Vince fears AEW, which we all know about that. So, we had Miro end up walking out from behind. He ended up taking out Fuego and Guevara. So, Fuego and Guevara were trying to fight back, but Miro just dropped them again. Miro then picked up Fuego and threw him outside through a table. Sammy ended up trying to see if Fuego was okay, but Miro locked in the game over on Guevara. As soon as he released the game over off of Guevara, he saw a card that said next TNT champion on it. And he ended up ripping up the card. And that was that. So, we're going to be getting that match next week on Dynamite. Miro versus Sammy Guevara, TNT Championship on the line. And then we saw a pre-recorded message from Andrade El Idolo. Andrade, I'm saying that Pac will not have an excuse for losing next time. So that was that we saw with Andrade. And then we saw Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay. This was just a meh match, in my opinion. So we had Penelope Ford end up coming out first. Anna Jay then came running out, ended up attacking Penelope Ford on the ramp. Anna Jay then threw Penelope Ford into the ring, starting off the match. Penelope Ford was firing in some forearms on Anna Jay. Anna Jay sent Penelope Ford flying through the ropes, sent her outside. Anna Jay then ended up throwing Penelope Ford into the corner. and drive her to the apron. Jay then ended up hitting a running back elbow when her and Penelope Ford went back to the ring. And then she delivered another back elbow. Anna Jay then ended up hitting a J kick, locked in the Queen Slayer. Penelope Ford tried to escape it, but the bunny ended up coming out. Anna Jay ended up confronting the bunny, and Penelope Ford ended up hitting her from behind. So Penelope Ford ended up setting up Anna Jay on the middle rope, ended up kicking Anna Jay out the side of her head. So Anna Jay and Penelope Ford were drawing back and forth. They were trading shots. Anna Jay ended up catching Penelope Ford in the Queen Slayer. Penelope Ford ended up backing into the corner. She ended up escaping. So the bunny was on the apron, and she distracted the referee. The bunny ended up tossing in brass knucks to Penelope Ford. Penelope Ford then ended up hitting the brass knucks to Anna Jay, and she went for the cover. And there you go. Penelope Ford ended up winning the match. Post-match, Penelope Ford and the bunny started beating down on Anna Jay, and Ty Conti ended up coming out. She ended up running into the ring. The bunny ended up hitting a back elbow, and Penelope Ford ended up taking in a flurry of shots. The bunny ended up coming in for the save, ended up pulling up Ty Conti for Penelope Ford. Penelope Ford ended up hitting Ty Conti with the brass knucks, and the Hardy family office ended up coming out. They stood in front of the apron, and Orange Cassidy and the alien, Chris Statlander, ended up walking out. Dark Order then ended up coming out to join them as well. And the Dark Order then headed to the ring, and they had the Hardy family office run the way. The Hardy family office retreated out of the ring. The Dark Order and Hardy family office had a stare down, and Evil Uno ended up walking out, and Stu Grayson and Colt Cabana ended up following, and that was that. But overall, very meh match from Penelope Ford and Anna Jay. And then we had Mark Henry. Mark Henry was interviewing Lance Archer, Minoru Suzuki, Eddie Kingston, and Jon Moxley before their match, which was coming up. So, they were pumped up, and, they were trying to kill each other in this match, which was a lights out match. And then we had the main event, the lights out tag team match, Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki. Good main event, good lights out tag team match. We had Moxley and Eddie Kingston end up coming out, and then Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki. So Eddie Kingston and Suzuki made their way to the rings. They started trading chops. Eddie Kingston was then sent through a table, which was crazy. Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki were in control of the match, as Lance Archer was being up on some security guys down there on the floor. So the security guys were then chokeslammed by Lance Archer. Lance Archer then ended up choking out Moxley with a belt while he was on the ropes. So Moxley was then duct taped with hands behind his back, while Minoru Suzuki ended up whipping Moxley with the belt, started choking him out with the belt, while Lance Archer ended up bringing out more weapons. Archer then brought out a trash can lid. He ended up hitting Moxley with the trash can lid. Shots to Moxley. Minoru Suzuki then had a kendo stick in hand. Eddie Kingston ended up attacking Lance Archer from the outside. Suzuki then ended up hitting Moxley with the kendo stick as Eddie Kingston was being down by Lance Archer. Lance Archer then ended up hitting Jon Moxley with a body slam as Moxley was then again choked out with the belt. So we had Minoru Suzuki end up punching Jon Moxley in the face. Suzuki started biting on Moxley. Lance Archer then ended up hitting Moxley with the kendo stick, started beating him down in the corner. We had Moxley end up avoiding Lance Archer in the corner and delivered some headbutts on Suzuki. Suzuki ended up biting Moxley's head once again, which was crazy. So Eddie Kingston ended up taking on Minoru Suzuki on his own. Suzuki ended up getting dropped with an Insiguri. And we had Lance Archer end up getting dropped with a suplex. So we had, at the end of the match, Homicide ends up coming out. Homicide ended up sending a trash can to Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston ended up setting it up on Lance Archer's head. He ended up using the kendo stick to beat down Lance Archer. So Eddie ended up pinning Lance Archer. And there you go. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston ended up winning this Lights Out tag team match. And of course, Homicide, he ended up rocking Lance Archer with the chair shot. And Suzuki delivered a boot and sent Homicide on the outside. And that's when we got that, what I just explained. So, like I said, Lance Archer, Eddie Kingston, and Jon Moxley ended up winning the match. Post-match, Jon Moxley and Minoru Suzuki were still fighting. Moxley ended up beating Suzuki down. Moxley and Homicide ended up hugging Eddie in the corner. And that was how Grand Slam, AEW Rampage Grand Slam, went off the air. Overall, good, enjoyable show. Although it wasn't as good as Dynamite from Wednesday. But hell, it was better than SmackDown. But overall, that's it for my review of both SmackDown and AEW Rampage. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.